Hello, dear students. We got a very good response from you after we did the video with Mr. Srinivas. So many students told us that SLCM subject can be very interesting when we look at it from a practical angle. That is why again we are here with Mr. Srinivas to discuss few more topics related to this SLCM subject. Hello, Mr. Srinivas. Welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, nice to have you here. So today we'll be discussing few very interesting concepts and also a little bit of history. Even when I teach, I always tell you, when you understand history, the concept becomes easier because you know the background and context. And just in case, if you're looking for SLCM classes, you can look at the description below and we have the video classes for your benefit. And for any more help, we are always there from Excel Academy. Anyway, coming to today's topic, Mr. Srinivas, we would like to know the perspective of history of the BSc and why NSc was established. Because every student knows there is something called BSc, there is something called NSc. And this is one thing which they are very sure about. But nobody has the idea about the history of BSc and why NSc was established. So can you please tell us about this?
Yeah, sure. Actually, BSc informally was started in 1875 by 5 traders under a banyan tree in Mumbai. Okay, it was started under a banyan tree in Mumbai in 1875, and it was the first stock exchange in whole of Asia. So that is India's record forever. It's the Asia's first stock exchange, and it had a monopoly till 1992. In 1986. Sensex 30 stocks were introduced, and it was the barometer of the economy. And in 1992, there was a scam by a person named Harshad Mehta.
Okay, yes, students are aware of that Harshad Mehta scam. Yeah.
Yeah. So BSc was the only stock exchange, and the regulators or the government was shocked by the scam and the scale of the scam and the damage it caused to the retail investors. So they decided to start an other exchange for more transparency. That's how stock exchange called NSE came into being in 1992 to break the monopoly of the BSc and bring more transparency to the stock exchanges. And it was also significant in the sense it separated management from ownership. So shareholders and owners were different, but the exchange was professionally managed under the supervision of the SEBI.
Yeah. So here, one thing which students should really understand is that monopoly is not good in any sector, definitely not in the stock markets. And I think that was a good move when they brought in NSE. And the interesting part is that the Asia's first stock exchange was in India, and that was the BSc. And it was way back in the 1800s, right? So how do they do it at that time? Like you said, under a banyan tree, like how does it work?
Actually, the merchants came together, and of course there was no concept of electronic trading. So it used to happen on a floor. It used to happen on a shop floor, something like that. So you had to shout your price of sale, and someone had to shout their price of buying or the price they wanted to buy. Of course, we are not used to it, but it seems strange. But that's how the trade used to happen. Of course, with 5 people, they could discuss it among themselves. As the stock exchange grew bigger, it used to happen on shouting of price of sale and purchase.
Yeah. So what started with 5 people is such a huge journey which we have seen today. That's really nice to know. So now, from the point of view as an investor and also academically, can you please tell us about SEBI, its broad functions, and the background under which it came into picture?
Yeah, it was established in 1992, as I said, after the Harshad Mehta scam. So before, stock market was a very, very risky place. So you see, there are 2 risks. There is one business risk, and there is one, what you can call ethical risk. Some people are not ethical. You can manage business risk by doing your research and study. But the ethical risk is something which had to be controlled, or it has to be minimized by the regulator. So the SEBI came into picture, and they ensured they did a thorough background check of the companies. Suppose there are audits, and it had to be just perfect. If the auditors did any mistakes, So SEBI had the right to punish them. Even now they do it actually. If there is a mistake from the auditor firm, SEBI has the right to take action on it. Okay.
Correct.
And
Yes.
stock
Yes.
market was a very, very dangerous place. Like it was no better than a casino before, because there was lack of information. There was
As
so
good
much.
as gambling. It was as good as gambling.
Yes, yes. Actually, that put off the ordinary investor from the stock market. People who are closer to companies, people who are closer to Mumbai, had always had always the advantage of it, and there was rampant insider trading and insider information being leaked. So these were the many challenges in front of SEBI. So the main function of SEBI is to ensure fairness in the capital markets, so that the capital markets are well regulated and they contribute to the nation's well-being and economic prosperity. So the basically SEBI's job is to ensure ordinary investor is protected. See, institutional investors can hire lawyers, can go to courts, they can fight the case in the courts and all. But the ordinary investor had absolutely no one to go to before SEBI. And it all changed after SEBI. Now that there was SEBI, companies were forced to implement some of the ethical practices which they could get away with, before SEBI.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think the sequence of this discussion is going really well. First, we had the history where we understood it started with just 5 people under a banyan tree way back in the 1800s. And then how to break the monopoly of BSE, we had NSE coming into picture. And then you told us the background and context of how SEBI was formed. So I just before I ask you the next question, I want to draw attention to all the students. See, this is how you need to study. And that time, your specific regulations of SEBI or the intermediaries or anything else becomes easy. The problem is directly we are just going into what is in the book. We have no context, and these are all abstract concepts. This is not like teaching you what is a mountain, what is a car. You can see, look and feel, and you'll understand. So most of the concepts here are abstract. So you need to try and connect a little bit of history, lot of anecdotes and actual facts and events. So when you have that context, that will help you to study the actual guidelines, the rules, the laws, and all the complicated stuff like LODR regulations, which we study. Of course, your job of company secretary is to implement the LODR guidelines or any of the other buyback guidelines or anything else which comes under SEBI regulations. You have to do that. But this background, this ABCD, whatever we are discussing here, becomes very important for you. And you can definitely write that in exam. If they ask you LODR, don't write this, but you can connect these kind of concepts, like just having a mention about how the Asia's first stock exchange was in India. It started under a banyan tree. These kind of small things add value to your answer. Only if you write that, definitely that's not useful. Along with this, write what is there in the actual guidelines is what I would request students. Now, coming back to our discussion, Srinivas, now that you told us about a little bit of history and also the SEBI and context, how it came into picture, what were the major reforms when we look at from independence time till 1992? There were a lot of issues, like you told, it was like a casino. What were the major reforms which they got, like whether it is relating to mutual fund, whether it is related to disclosure? What were the reforms? If you can summarize them, it will be very helpful.
Yeah, actually the regulations are evolving, and SEBI is smart, but the people who are cheating are, we have to accept something. They're smarter. That's the problem. So you had to learn on the job. SEBI had to learn on the job. SEBI was established in 1992. Then Satyam happened. Then some other financial technologies, there's a company, it happened. So, but actually to SEBI's credit, they have ensured all the disclosures which happen in the boardroom, which can be disclosed to the ordinary shareholder with the help of technology, is immediately put on the stock exchange. Okay, be it something as simple as an annual report.
Correct.
So in early 1990s, to get hold of the annual report was a miracle. Actually, you could not get the annual report so easily. There was no concept of internet and all. So with the evolution of
True. Because annual report is one of the primary things a shareholder has to have access to.
Yes. and annual report is immediately available on the exchanges now. So let's take, for example, listing time. Listing time, it used to take a lot of time, something like 15 to 30 days before. Now the SEBI has brought down the listing time from the subscription to the listing to just under 7 working days. So you know why this is important? See, people borrow money to invest. Sometimes people borrow money to invest in an IPO. If it gets longer, you will have to pay the interest. Even if the shares are not allotted, you will have to pay the interest. So this is just one aspect of SEBI's regulation. And in mutual fund regulation also, a lot of effort has been made to make sure the industry is investor friendly. For example, there are sectoral caps. For example, the banking sector, the power sector cannot have more than, say, 25% of the portfolio. Cannot have more than 25% of the portfolio. And mutual funds cannot have more than 10% in one company. More than 10% in one company.
Correct.
And you know, the strange thing about mutual funds in the early 19 was, nowadays you get daily net asset value. Daily net asset value. In the 1990s, you used to get weekly net asset values. So actually you did not get real-time information at all. Suppose a company met investors, they did not have to disclose. But with LODR rules, they will have to disclose what they said, and they will also have to say there was no unpublished price sensitive information. So they can't disclose any unpublished price sensitive information other than to the exchanges. So there is very little possibility of insider information getting into the hands of few people and profiting out of it. And you know, NSE was established to break BSE's monopoly, but even NSE made a mistake. There is one famous case called co-location case. Yes, wherein some people placed their servers in the NSE, and they were milliseconds ahead of the other traders. So SEBI found that this was a malpractice, and they ensured some NSE officials were terminated, and the NSE IPO has not come to the market because of this action by the SEBI. So not even the exchanges are above board. Even the exchanges, when they make a mistake, SEBI has the powers to, you know, prosecute the erring officials.
Correct. So here, see, like context of history is very important, because most of the students here are very young. Of course, there are students who are also working and studying. See, when you look at from 1992 till now 2020, there has really been a sea of change and lot of reforms. Like, for example, getting real-time information, we take it for granted, especially in the internet age right now. Everything is in your mobile phone itself. You don't even need a laptop or a desktop. And any company's, any annual report, any information, as long as it is listed, everything is publicly available. Even for unlisted, for that matter, you go to MCA website, most of the financials you already get it. So this can be a huge advantage for a subscriber or investor, shareholder, whatever we want to call. And this is something we have to be very aware as students also, the context of this. So now one more thing, Srinivas, before we just go ahead, one general thing I wanted to say, because when I meet companies or directors, their usual complaint is markets are over-regulated as compared to, they always give example to real estate sector. Of course, now we have a law for real estate. The real estate RERA has come into picture, but there are so many problems because state government is the execution authority. There is no real teeth for the state government. And like if the state government ruling party is opposite of central government, they don't implement it with all vigor. It's more like a paper tiger. So many issues are there. But still, though we have RERA, which has come in of 4 or 5 years into picture, we don't see that kind of strict ground level changes, at least on the face of it. So do you feel, what is your opinion, especially because your perspective is that of an investor, do you feel markets are over-regulated?
Maybe in few cases, but the over-regulation, which is a risk, is worth the risk. If you just let them go, there are some people who game the system and misuse it. So something like an over-regulation is better than under-regulation. Of course, there are costs. There are, it's a time-consuming process. There are costs. But you have to understand, for the capital to come in from, say, a domestic investor or an international investor, governance is the most important thing. So you can't hand over the money to a crook and sit in peace. So he is prepared to take a business risk, but he can't take something like a balance sheet risk, management risk. These are some things which no one wants to take. Okay. Of course, in an ideal world, no one would like that. This is not an ideal world. So I always feel over-regulation is better than under-regulation under current circumstances, because even with SEBI keeping a hawk's eye over the proceedings, there are many problems which are happening. So imagine if, you know, they lower their guard, many scams will come out, and it will leave a lasting impact on the psyche of the investor, be it domestic or international. There will be capital starved industries. So regulation is necessary.
So here I want to draw attention to the students again. If you observed when Mr. Srinivas was speaking, he used the word governance. So governance becomes very important, not only for the investors or foreign investors to come in, because you and me are governance professionals. So here, every student should realize the kind of opportunities which you have. See, the companies want governance because the law says that. The investors are pushing for governance because governance makes them feel safe. And overall, that will help the economy to grow, the markets to grow. And you, as a student of company secretary, are training yourselves to become governance professionals. So the opportunity is very huge. In fact, India has the highest number of listed companies as compared to any other country, if I'm not wrong, and it is only going to increase. And there are some listed companies where there are even 20 to 30 company secretaries who have been employed. So that is the kind of opportunities which you have. Anyway, coming back to our discussion. So finally, would you like to summarize everything, Srinivas, so that we get a capsule of whatever you have shared with us, so that students can also use that and write it in an exam?
Yeah, sure. The main purpose of SEBI is investor protection. Main purpose of SEBI is investor protection. And it has ensured there is no information asymmetry between people who have the knowledge, wherewithal, and the analyst and a person, an ordinary person, say for example in Bangalore or Mysore, is far away from Mumbai, where the company headquarters is located. But he will have the same information which is given to the analysts of a multinational company. See, the regulation is necessary only to protect investors and give them comfort that their hard-earned money will not be misused or will not be fraudulently used. So with that motive, the SEBI came into existence. And I have to say, SEBI is right up there with RBI or any other esteemed, very respected regulator when it comes to regulating and making the investor confident. For example, even if you don't receive a dividend, you can write to SEBI. There is one thing called scores.gov.in.
Correct.
So you can, and I tell you from my experience, they will reply. They will forward it to company, and the companies are forced to reply. So because of SEBI, investor has a voice, and no matter how feeble it is, it will be heard by the company. It will have to be heard by the company, and it ensures the savings which Indians make, is converted into risk capital, and it helps the country transform. For example, for a power plant to come in, for a cement plant to come in, you need lots of capital. For people to invest money, they need trust. So that way, SEBI is the guardian of investors. And I'll have to say they have done a very, very good job at that.
Yeah, I think you have summarized it really well. So one thing which all of us should understand, especially the students, is SEBI and the internet together has really made investing in the markets truly democratic, because you don't have to be close to Mumbai, you don't have to be close to the big cities. So as long as you have internet, even if you are in a village, even if you're in a forest, with the right education and right knowledge about the markets, anyone can invest their money and also contribute in growing the economy. Because when you invest, you're not just investing expecting that you'll get some return, but that is how nation building happens. And when we have a mature capital market, when we have a mature stock market, we'll really have very good economic growth. And especially now, it's a great opportunity where more and more people are actually getting into the markets. Of course, in the more guarded way because of COVID and other things, but they are. Because when you look at other things, like what are the other options? If you look at land or if you look at any other kinds of investment, things are very uncertain. So for the long-term perspective, not only for personal finances, but to grow the economy, it's a great method of investing in the markets. So anyway, that's the overall discussion. So why we are doing this is students should understand it is not just about SEBI regulations, LODR regulations, ICDR regulations. Of course, we do that. We do it in our video classes. We have completed all the syllabus and students are also watching these classes. And if you want, you can also enroll by clicking on the description below. You can also call us, and please do get in touch with Excel Academy. We have a lot of Telegram groups. All the links are in the description below. You can also call us or you can message us, you can WhatsApp us, any help you want, we are always there for you. So for more such discussions, if you want, let us know in the comments. Let us know what did you feel about the discussion. Let us know if you want more such discussions with Mr. Srinivas and other experts of similar nature. We'll be very happy to arrange that. And make sure that you give a thumbs up if you like this video, and also do share it with your friends. So Mr. Srinivas, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will be in touch with you, and let's see, and we'll try to do few more sessions like this. So dear students, thanks a lot for joining us, and all the best for exam. You can contact us for anything that you need. Thank you.